Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and you're here with your host Charles, and this is UFC 275, Teixeira versus Procházka, and we got a special guest joining us to help us with the breakdown. But before we get into that, we're going to do a quick recap of last week where we go 11-3 on predictions, and we profit 10.65 units, not to mention the public parlay of the week hits again. That is 2 back-to-back weeks. And we're going to start a brand new streak going into this third week here. We did lose anchor to one of my parlays here, so if you do notice that in some of the bet slips, we'll have to make an adjustment going forward. But some of those picks are locked in because they were made earlier in the week. Now, we are at plus 65 units for the year, guys, and I told you my goal is to reach 100 units, and with your help and with this momentum, we are going to get there. Once again, thank you for joining me at Southpaw Picks, and I'm going to allow you guys to take a second to join our conversation with DJ C Combat, and he'll share his thoughts on how he feels about UFC 275. Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and we're here with your host, Charles, and we got a special guest in the building here. We got DJ C Combat, and he's going to be helping us with the breakdown over UFC 275. But before we get into the breakdown, I want to start by introducing my guest a little bit, and I'm going to ask, what brought you into your love for MMA, and why did you start following the sport?
I started watching it because I seen my dad watch it for the most part, or sometimes I'd be going over to like my family's house, like where my uncle's place, they'd always have UFC on. And I think the first fight that got me interested, at first I wasn't interested in UFC, but the first fight that kind of made me a fan was Anderson Silva versus Dan Henderson in 2008. Like I was fascinated by Anderson Silva's performance and I became a fan of him. And then 4 months later, I watched Rampage versus Forrest Griffin. That was a really good fight as well. And then I think that fight is what really sort of kicked off my full-on interest in the sport. So I've been a fan of MMA for about 14 years.
Yeah, wow. Well, you bring up Forrest Griffin around the same time as when I got into it, and also too, my father saw it on the TV growing up.
Yeah.
From I was little watching it, and even my kids here now, they're watching every fight with me as the day goes on. But we are here to get into business.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about UFC 275. And we're going to be kicking it off here with the main event, Glover Teixeira versus Jiří Procházka. Light heavyweight strap on the line. And we got a clash of styles, very interesting matchups. I've been hearing a lot of breakdowns throughout the week, and they kind of simplified it to striker versus grappler. They kind of simplified it to, Jiří if he can land, or Glover extends if he's going to lose. But I do have a different opinion. This is why I like to wait to the weigh-ins. I saw Glover's shape on the weigh-ins today. He looked a little worn out.
Yeah.
He looked a little bit in a weird way. It's almost like he looked so much older here than he did versus Yan. I feel like watching him in the embedded versus Yan, he looked so physically on point to me as that I felt that he had a great chance in that spot.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This time he looked a little 42-ish.
Yeah.
He looked a little worn out. Yeah. So I don't know how did you feel about seeing him at the weigh-ins today?
Yeah, I noticed that too. He looked very sunken in, and I heard that he did say, and heard other people talking about this too, that the weight cut was rough for Glover Teixeira. So that could factor into this matchup because he's taking on one of the most dangerous, most powerful strikers in the light heavyweight division in Jiří Procházka. Like his power is different, and Yuri's the kind of guy that if he hits you, that's it. There's no recovery process. Like it's lights out. No one's not Malkoun like that. Not even Magomed Ankalaev could do that. And he knocked out Reyes. I mean, Yan TKO'd him, but he knocked Reyes out with that elbow. So this could definitely factor into this matchup because if Glover takes one of those shots, I mean, he's susceptible to getting hit. He's susceptible to getting rocked. And who knows? If one of these shots can get through, it could be lights out. And I wonder if maybe the age and the struggle to make the weight, I wonder if him being depleted could also affect his recovery because we know Teixeira, he's so good at recovering, when he's and he falls to the ground. We see he holds on, he scrambles back up, he starts wrestling, he takes you down. Maybe in this fight, it could be different with him being depleted.
I agree. I was initially going into this weekend thinking Glover has more ways to win, but I feel like we may have just seen the apex. I also take into consideration a lot of the opponents on this run were aged veterans.
Yes.
They were aged veterans, even though as spectacular as they were. Thiago Santos isn't looking the same way.
Yeah.
Jan did said there was a neck injury. I don't know, but once again, a 39-year-old guy, same ballpark here.
Yeah.
I think fresher, younger Jiří, and reluctant to say it, I'm switching picks as what I had early in the week. I'm gonna side with Jiří Procházka, second round TKO.
Yeah, I'm picking Jiří to win too. Like originally, like all the way, I had Glover Teixeira winning this fight. Like I always thought between Yan and Glover when Jiří was going to fight the winner. I was thinking to myself, I hope Yan wins because it's a better matchup for Jiří because he's not as grappler heavy as Glover. And when Glover won and the way he won, I'm like, yeah, Jiří's probably not going to be champ now. All the way, I'm like, Glover's just going to do his thing. But the closer the fight got, I did some thinking. And I thought there are paths to victory for Jiří here. There are ways he could win. And I mean, for this camp, he wasn't training with Cejudo, but late last year, I mean, he was at Fight Ready, and I mean, has to count for something. You know, Cejudo has helped improve a lot of fighters like Weili, Davison Figueiredo, and he was training with John Jones too, who beat Glover, who's a better wrestler than Glover. So if you had guys like that in your camp, I think you should be ready for the offensive wrestling of Teixeira. You know, Jiří Procházka is also very long. You can use that range. And what I noticed about Teixeira is that his takedowns they're not the best when he's backing up or in the center. His takedowns are perfect, kind of like Khabib when he has you back to the cage. And then he gets those high crotch singles or the double leg up and stuff like that. But he's not able to take you down like that in the center because he's not like the traditional wrestler who will just blast W. He just kind of reaches down and tries to muscle you. And against Jiří, with the pressure he has, that's perfect. He can have Glover backing up. He can see the takedowns. He can defend them. And I think he can put hands on Glover. And it's very possible that maybe he can time an uppercut. Glover is vulnerable to uppercuts. He could time a flying or a bad takedown. And like I said, when Jiří Procházka has you hurt, there's like no coming back. Now, what does worry me is he hurts Glover, but he doesn't separate him from consciousness. And then Glover is able to do what he did to Thiago. And I just hope Jiří, if he hurts him, he's able to better capitalize than what other guys have done. Because, watching Glover, against Carl Robertson and Culibao, and then stepping it up to the next level against guys like Smith and Santos, I'm like, okay, this is where he's going to lose. He's going to lose when he fights these guys. But no, it was the same thing. So it could be the same thing with Jiří too. So that worries me. It's his first title fight. So I just hope he doesn't choke on the opportunity. And I hope he's able to finish. I hope he's able to finish him properly without, I guess, leaving himself open or putting himself in danger. And hopefully he separates him from consciousness, which I could very well see him doing because the shots that he hits people with, the angles from where he hits people with the shots, he has a way of hurting guys and just ending the fight. So this might be the nail in the coffin, and this might be where age catches up to Glover and he loses.
Yeah, I suspect. This light heavyweight division, I feel like this is one of those divisions where the belt is going to be changing hands as the years progress.
Yep.
So you're gonna side with Jiří by KO as well?
Yep, and I think he gets it done in the first round. I mean, he could be in the second round, but I feel like he's got to get him out early before Glover can really get hands on him. But I can definitely see him, I guess, maybe later in the fight getting a finish too.
Of course. He just needs one. Well, let's move on down here to the co-main event. We got a flyweight bout between Valentina Shevchenko and Taila Santos. Now I'm going to kick it out here to DJC Combat, and he's going to kick us off with the breakdown. How do you see this matchup going?
All right, so, this is the same thing with Glover versus Jiří. And maybe I might be making a mistake by changing my picks and stuff. Maybe I should have trusted my gut from the beginning, but I don't know. At first, I'm like, yeah, Val's going to win. She's going to do her thing. She's just too technically perfect, and Santos won't be able to do anything to her. And that is a good analysis, but I've just been having this funny feeling, this gut feeling that we are going to see an upset and that Taila is going to shock the world. it's hard to explain, but because of how Taila, how dangerous Santos is and what she brings to the table, I just feel like if there's anyone right now who's going to rise to the occasion in the flyweight division, like what we saw in women's bantamweight, it's Taila or no one. And the thing is about Santos is, okay, she's got size on Valentina, and she's maybe not that much stronger because Val is very strong for her size.
Yes, yes,
But I think to give Val any kind of problems, you have to be bigger. You know, we've seen Juliana Pena, Amanda Nunes with their size give her problems, and I think the size might translate well into the grappling situations if they lock up. You know, Tala's got good takedown defense. Maybe Val will struggle to get a takedown. Maybe what happened with Maya, maybe Santos could reverse the takedown, end up on top, get good top control. And like you said, Valentina does kind of settle for bottom position. She does settle for being controlled against the cage. And, you know, moments like that, I can very well see Taila capitalizing on, using her strength, which will help her in the grappling. And also, Taila Santos, I mean, she has this kind of power where if she catches Valentina, I think it's going to have an effect on her that we're not used to seeing. Now, it's not likely, but it's very possible. There could be openings there that she could capitalize on to where she does do damage or where she does hurt Val, or maybe she does surprise us and knocks her out or drops her and subs her. So, yeah, I might be making a big mistake here betting against the bullet, but I'm taking this risk, making a huge underdog pick, and hopefully I'm right because now I'll feel like a genius. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Taila Santos here.
wow. And I know that must have been hard because I know you're a good a big fan of Valentina, and I agree too. I'm a big fan of Valentina.
Yeah.
I don't think out of any matchup here, except I think I did give Katlyn Chookagian a shot, and she shot that out the water immediately.
Yeah.
But then also seeing Katlyn Chookagian suffer from the strength of Jessica Andrade, I said, well, I guess physically she wasn't strong enough anyway.
Yeah.
Taila Santos, to me, what I appreciate about her run is they have no similar opponents. This is why it makes looking back at how they compare to one another very difficult because you know what? I can argue that a lot of those girls at the top of the division aren't better than the girls at the bottom of the division.
Yeah.
You know, Jennifer Maia, staple, legend, but you saw how Ferro dealt with her. I believe Erin Blanchfield would run through her the same way. Like,
oh, me too.
Exactly, yeah. But she's up there. She's someone to get knocked down. Lauren Murphy had a bunch of competitive fights with mid-level girls, Andrea Lee. You know, Valentina has to fight who's in front of her. And I believe she's serious. I believe she's taking Santos serious.
Too.
There is no way this fight is not competitive. And that's one thing I can guarantee to anybody.
Yeah, I agree.
And the only reason why I'm taking the shot on Santos and I'm picking her to win here is we've all established Valentina likes to play bottom. When Santos has got girls on the bottom, they aren't moving.
Yep.
She has them against the cage. They're not moving.
Yep.
She's able to back girls up with these winging shots. And I do like how, against Roxanne Modafferi, I watched her stay behind a beautiful jab. Stayed patient and stayed behind a jab because Valentina is staying in position to counter. She's not going forward. So if you're able to pick her apart like how Nunes did and just keep her far enough to frustrate her, it's going to be competitive in my opinion. I don't think I see Santos finishing her. And this could be one of those things where people think Santos won and then the decision goes to the champ.
Yep.
It could be one of those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to go and say, I'm going to say Taila Santos, split decision. She wins 2 out of the 3 early rounds, maybe a close 4 or 5 in there where judges aren't decided. But I think she's going to have the bigger moments.
Yeah, and speaking of that and split decision, have you noticed this year there's a trend, except for UFC 272, every dog in a co-main event this year has been successful in a co-main event pay-per-view. UFC 270, the underdog, Figueiredo won, and then UFC won. Tai Tuivasa was the underdog against Lewis. He won. UFC 270, Aljamain Sterling, underdog, wins a split decision against Peter Yan. 274, Carlos Esparza, underdog, co-main, split decision against Rose. So that kind of makes me wonder, is this trend, is it going to carry over into this card or will it break?
There's you see, that's the thing that happens to the judges. They see those stuff on the monitor.
Mm.
When an underdog has a close round,
Yeah.
sometimes they're marking it for the underdog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that was close. I mean, Valentina should have ran through her.
Yeah. Like with Jan, that first round was close. And I mean, a lot of people gave it to Sterling. I personally kind of thought Peter won that round, but because I guess Aljo just led slightly more, the judges and 2 of the 3 judges gave it to the underdog. So, oh, and speaking of that patient striking you were talking about with Santos, yesterday I did like a nightmare matchup video. I kind of, the Weasel.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I kind of copy what he does. I'm kind of guilty of that. I have this nightmare matchup series where we talk about nightmare matchups for champs in each division. You can check that, by the way. So I'm on part 10, and this one was women's flyweight. And I had Santos as a nightmare matchup for Val. And one of the things I pointed out was that she has good, patient, distance striking, which could work against someone as defensive as Shevchenko. Santos doesn't seem like the kind of girl who will get wild or who will just simply fall into things like that. And she can use that reach like Nunes did to frustrate her. And that was one of the key components I pointed out.
Yeah, and that's what makes these rounds close. You could argue Valentina beat Nunes, Nunes beat Valentina.
Yep.
These are competitive matches.
Yep.
These slight instances, like maybe Santos got a five more jabs.
Or damage.
Or more top control, or more damage, exactly.
Yep.
One thing's for sure, I don't think it's like Nunes Pena where Nunes underestimated Pena. I think that was an obvious underestimation on her.
Yeah.
I do think Valentina takes it seriously, so I know it's gonna be a dogfight. I do think this has potential to be one of the best flyweight fights we've seen.
Yeah. I just hope it's not going to be like another Valentina domination. Like, if Val wins, I want her tested. And that nightmare matchup vid I made to be for nothing and for me to look stupid. Like, oh, you thought this girl was a challenge? Because I usually spot on in a lot of those videos. So it would be the moment, even if, let's say, Santos doesn't get it done. If she comes close or shows some good moments, then yeah.
I like it here. And obviously saying that this might be one of the best flyweight matchups that we've seen. Let's kick it off to the next fight on the card. Some say it's definitely in my top 5, one of the greatest strawweight championship matches ever.
Yeah.
Right? One of the best fights I ever seen. I mean, my girlfriend can tell you from the fight started, I couldn't sit down. I was in anticipation of what was going to happen. Just in anticipation. And when it kicked off, I stood from the first minute to the last minute the whole time. Didn't even know at the end of it who won.
Yeah, I still don't even. After 2 years watching it so many times, that's one of the hardest 5-round championship fights to score. Like, I thought maybe Weili won round 1 just barely, and I kind of gave her round 2, although towards the end Joanna stunned her. I felt Weili just had to take down bigger moments with her power, and when she stunned Joanna. But then where it gets complex, so I think Joanna won round 3 for sure. But where it gets is the 4th and 5th round, because originally I had Weili winning rounds 4 and 5, but now looking back, I kind of think you could argue one of those rounds you could give that to Joanna. So tricky fight to score.
Even in this rematch, because now we have a 3-round sample size. I know the word going around was Joanna was up on 2 judges' scorecards.
Yes.
The first time.
Yes.
This is 2 years later. I don't know exactly how the headspace is going to work for either opponent coming in here. I do think there's going to be a bit of respect. I'm not sure if we're going to get the same epic fight because they've made adjustments. Joanna talks about staying on the outside. Weili talks about starting faster.
Yes.
It's going to be an interesting clash of styles, and I do believe it's going to the scorecards. But the one thing I'm going to give Weili a bit of credit for is the last time she fought on this side of the border, she KO'd Jessica Andrade.
Yeah.
Fast. She's always talked about the travel being a bit of an issue on her body. And now coming here in her own backyard, do we see a better performance from her? I don't know. It's hard to really speculate on that. But the last time she fought on this side, she looked the best, world best for her, right?
What I want to say is I noticed, and maybe I don't want to be superstitious, and maybe this is just a coincidence because of who she's fought and stuff. But I've noticed every time she's fought in China, even before her UFC career, I'm pretty sure she's not had a fight in the US. It's usually been in Asia, right?
Yeah.
UFC career, she was just finishing everybody. And then UFC debut. It was in Los Angeles. In America, didn't look so great, but she won against Daniel. And then her next UFC fight, China, she murders Jessica Aguilar. Then her next fight in America, looks human against Torres, but wins handily. Yeah. And then she goes into China in her own backyard to fight for the title. She looks more dangerous than ever, and she destroys the tough veteran and the tank like Andrade in 50-something seconds.
Immediately, first blows, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and then she goes back to the States for her next 3 fights, split decision over Joanna, then 2 losses to Rose. So it could just be who she's fighting and stuff and the levels of her opponent. It might have nothing to do with the location, but it almost seems like it does. So I was kind of thinking of that too. Like, are we going to get a better performance because she's close to home?
Yeah, I agree. And, like I said, they say rematches favor the younger fighter. Joanna has made it clear that she doesn't want to fight contenders. She wants big fights. She's fighting for money now.
Yeah.
I don't think Weili's fighting for money. And I do think in the back of her mind, whenever she gets touched by Zhang, she's going to just remember.
Yeah.
She's going to remember her face swelling. She's going to remember the bruising. She might be, more hesitant to even engage.
Yeah.
Because she knows that, man, if I keep letting this girl touch me, what am I going to look like in the end of the fight?
Yeah.
So as much as I want to choose Joanna, I chose Joanna the first time and was wrong.
Yeah.
Lost money on that ticket, but we're actually getting Joanna here at a better price line than she was in the first fight. So it looks like some people have a little bit more faith in her here. I, for one, am not. I'm going to side with the younger fighter, the more hungry fighter, in my opinion, in Weili Zhang. And I think she gets a finish in this matchup. I think we could see a second round, a KO for Weili.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. It's funny because the first fight, I picked Weili with such confidence because she hadn't lost those 2 times yet to Rose. She was undefeated. Well, 1 loss, but still 1 loss wonder, a long win streak, looking unstoppable, looking untouchable going into that Joanna fight where Joanna was already losing a few times already. So then I picked Weili and I picked her by 4th round TKO. I thought that this first fight would be kind of like Usman versus Colby, where it was going to be a war. I knew it would be a war. I knew it would be competitive, but I thought Weili's power and the damage would just add up, like what Usman did to Colby, and eventually Joanna would cave in and get finished. Now in this fight, I'm picking Weili again, but not with the same level of confidence because now we've seen her get exposed by Namajunas. We've seen her look human in the first Joanna fight. We've seen how close that was. So she looks more beatable. Now you look at this fight, you think Joanna can win, but I'm picking Weili because she has activity on her side. She's clearly hungrier. Her motivations are better. She's not in it for just the money. She's getting better. We've seen the improvements in the second Namajunas fight, and I just think she's going to be better adapted in this rematch. Now, I know Joanna is not going to want to brawl. She's going to want to use her range. She's going to want to be more patient. But the problem with that is that her defense, even still, maybe she can prove me wrong. Maybe it'll be better than what it was before. It's not as good as Rose Namajunas. Thug Rose has a different kind of defense, and that's why Weili was just not able to touch her. She landed a lot of leg kicks in the rematch and shots to the body, but if you notice, she barely touched her to the head because Rose is constantly feinting, freezes you up, and then she's sliding out of the way, going in and out, cutting angles. Joanna doesn't do that, so even if she's taking her time or trying to stay long, I feel like Weili, she's going to find more openings to trap Joanna and to create those big exchanges again. I think once again, she's going to have bigger moments with her power. And I think she's going to win through pressure, damage, and effective grappling and control. And I do see her. I mean, she could get a finish, but I'll probably say she wins by decision again because Joanna is very tough. She's how tough she is to put away if she has a good weight cut. But like I said, just from pressure, octagon control, moments with takedowns, landing big shots, I think, through that, she'll get the win.
Sounds good. Looking forward to those 3 bouts. This pay-per-view is pretty top-heavy, I must say. These are probably the most exciting bouts to look forward to. And I did lose Manel Kape, which was the fight I was so excited to not only bet on, but watch fight. And that's 2 back-to-back fights pulled. So in his place now, we got welterweight bout between Andre Fialho and Jake Matthews. And I'll kick this one off here. Not too impressed with Jake Matthews overall in his career. He does have a decent, well-rounded skill set, but we've seen him lose to high-level opponents. Sean Brady have a pretty competitive fight towards the end until he pulled away against Diego Sanchez. One thing I do notice about Jake Matthews, which I will bank on here in this fight, is he always drops his right hand, and he's been open to a lot of left hooks from a lot of fighters. And Andre Fialho has been knocking people out with that same shot.
Wow.
I don't know if this is a tailor-made matchup. This is what Andre Fialho's like third or fourth weight cut this year in such a tight span, and he is a big guy. I don't believe he has the grappling advantage here, Jake Matthews, and I just believe Andre Fialho is the more well-rounded fighter here. And without getting too in detail with this one, I like Andre Fialho, but I like him by decision here.
Okay.
How you feel about this?
Yeah, I'll probably pick Fialho because he's really impressed me. UFC debut looked really good against Mikel Pereira.
Yeah.
And his second UFC fight, he surprised the hell out of me because I thought that who did he fight in April? It was the guy
Cameron Van Camp, yeah.
Cameron who?
Cameron Van Camp, to that guy short notice, yeah.
Yeah, but he fought a guy.
Or Miguel Baeza.
That guy, yes. He knocked him out. That surprised me. I thought Baeza was going to run through him, destroy Baeza, and then he won his next UFC fight after that. He's been very active and looking great. I think Matthews, isn't he like a good grappler?
He's shown signs to be good grapplers in certain matchups, but then you see him get out grappled in other matchups. Kevin Lee finished him on the ground, Sean Brady, but those are decent competition, right? I do believe that's going to be where this fight's decided, like who really is better if the fight goes there. But
yeah, I think what Matthews might have is he might be a better grappler with more experience. So I go with him based off that, but I think through recency bias, I think I might have to go with Fialho. I just think it could be his time to shine. And I think he might make a big statement here against Jake Matthews.
I agree. So we are both going with Andre Fialho out of Sanford MMA. Another interesting fight here. We have Jack Della Maddalena versus Ramazan Emeev, your typical Dagestani wet blanket. And I'm going to just side with Jack Della Maddalena. And I'm going to say he pulls it off as the favorite here. Matchup between Choi versus Joshua Culibao. And me neither here. I'm not too familiar with this matchup. We do got a Muay Thai striker here in Choi coming out winning 3 out of his last 4 against some notable names: Julian Erosa, Yusuf Salal, and Suman Marktarian. Josh Culibao on the other end getting finished by Jalen Turner. Split decision with Charles Jourdain, and then the win over Shailan Nurmagomedov. I think these guys are both pretty decent strikers. Not something I'm looking to bet myself, but I would side with Choi.
Yeah, I think I'll go with him too. Like, I probably should have done my research before joining the video, but just from what I know about Choi and know how dangerous he is, he's got that knockout power and stuff. I've seen him fight. I know how dangerous he is. And even though he lost, wasn't his last fight against Caceres?
Yes.
Like he made a mistake with that knee, so it costed him an opportunity to get a knockout. Couldn't get.
It cost me too. It cost me.
Yeah, about that. I used the app Verdict. I don't really bet on fights, but on Verdict I had Choi by first round KO, and then missed. So yeah, but I think he'll get this one.
I like the sound of it. He's a 2-1 favorite in that matchup, so I too will side with the favorite. And then we're going down to the bottom of the barrel. Brendan Allen can't even get a fight over Maheshate versus Steve Garcia in the lightweight bout. Maheshate versus Steve Garcia. Both guys pretty low level to me, in my opinion. Not a fight I'm looking to get involved in just based on experience. But I'll side with the favorite as well in Steve Garcia. Do you know anything about Maheshate? Probably not, eh?
No.
Just that one fight on Contender Series, we really don't know. Moving on down, we got a middleweight scrap between Brendan All-In Allen and Jacob Malkoun. And I have an interesting take on this fight, but I'd like to hear who you think would win this matchup.
I'm going to take Brendan Allen. I think Jacob Malkoun, he's a solid fighter. You know, he's decently well-rounded, like okay stand-up, and his grappling looked really good against Alice Hassan. Yeah, but I don't think his grappling will be as good. I don't think he'll be up to par with someone like Brandon Allen. I don't think his striking will be as good or as technical. Brandon Allen's very well-rounded. His striking is very good, very technical, very defensively sound, and he can take this fight anywhere. He can win on the feet or on the ground. And I've been impressed by Allen from what I've seen. You know, he does get caught sometimes, like against Sean Strickland. And again, not his last fight, he knocked out Ali, but before that, he got knocked out by Chris Curtis.
Yeah, Chris Curtis, yep.
But I don't know if Malkoun is going to have that same power threat that those other dudes did. So based off that, I'm going to have to go with Allen. I think Allen has more experience too, right?
Yes. Yeah. Way more experience, yeah. Former LFA champion as well.
Okay.
My opinion on Brendan Allen has been a weird one. I feel like he has all the talent in the world. He's a developing fighter. He's got a lot of fights on his record here against high-level opponents. You know, he submitted Kevin Holland, which, a lot of guys get him down to the ground and can't submit Kevin Holland. He manages to stay safe.
That's impressive. Jacare
That is impressive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, I've also seen Brendan Allen drop the ball in spots.
Yeah.
I've seen him kind of, when things don't go his way, he kind of makes these bonehead mistakes in there.
Like against Strickland?
Against Strickland, even against Chris Curtis. Like, once he got the first takedown stuffed, it's like he almost lost all his confidence. It's like, oh no, I can't take him down. I'm screwed. But then I see him come out against Carl Robinson, and he looks like a premier kickboxer, throwing hands and looking elite. So he's very confusing when it comes to this. I'm going to actually side with Jacob Malkoun just because I've seen consistency here. Definitely a long shot, definitely a dog shot. Yeah. I do believe Brendan Allen deserves to be the favorite here.
Yeah.
But I just like the consistency of the attack of Jacob Malkoun. And I've also never seen Brendan Allen really go up against somebody who's just going to be diving at the legs over and over again. I feel like most of the time we're always saying Brendan Allen is the better grappler. So I'm just going to take a sprinkle on that there. But I got to say, Brendan Allen definitely deserves to be the favorite in this matchup. And we got 3 more fights down the docket here. We got Kang Ho Kang, a.k.a. Mr. Perfect, versus Batgerel Danaa. This is a bantamweight matchup. Again, guys from the region, they got to throw on the card. They got to offer these guys fights. Are you familiar with any of these two fighters?
I know who Batgerel is, and I think he's again.
He's coming off a loss to Chris Gutierrez, that spinning back fist that he caught.
Yeah.
And Kang Ho Kang is coming off that loss to Ronnie Yaya. It was a bit of a grappling fest.
Yes, yeah. Both these guys are. From what I've seen of Kang, I know him just from that loss to Ronnie Yaya. Batgerel, he's been pretty promising, right? He's known for, isn't he known for power and stuff? And didn't he have his last opponent hurt?
He threw he won the first round against Chris Gutierrez, but then eventually started swinging at air. Chris Gutierrez is a very high level bantamweight. Maybe he needs to get a little bit more credit in that regard. And he got caught with a spinning back fist off of the cage and put out in that matchup.
I think what worries me is he's doing a quick turnaround from
2
months ago from getting knocked out. That could factor into this, but I mean, I could also see him patching up his holes, learning from that mistake, and maybe getting it done in this one. So I'll maybe take a wild guess and take Batgerel to win this fight.
I agree. I'm going to side with Danaa Batgerel as well. Kang Ho Kang, I mean, he's been around the UFC and has had a lot of competitive fights, but does look to slow down. I'm not sure he's faced anybody with the power of Batgerel recently. So I'm going to side with the favorite there in the matchup. And then we got 2 women fights left on the card here. One fight I'm extremely excited for here is Silvana Gómez Juárez versus Liang, a.k.a. the Dragon Girl. And I'm very excited for this fight. Number one, because of that UFC debut against Ariane Carmelosi. It was absolute chaos. And even Silvana Gómez in her small outings in the UFC, dropping Vanessa Demopoulos with that right hand, making the mistake, getting armbarred, going up against a monster in Lupita, who, honestly, she fought off 2 straight takedowns before she eventually had to succumb to the armbar. So you got to give her credit in that regard. I like this matchup in the sense that it's not going to go the distance.
So
Liang has never gone to a third round. She's never been to a decision. And Silvana Gómez Juárez, prior to coming to the UFC, was just on a first round knockout spree. So I'm going to side here with Liang, and I'm going to say she wins in the first round via submission. Move along down here to the opener and the first fight of the night here. We got Joselyne Edwards versus Romana Pascual. And like I said, very low level, hard to be confident in either girl here.
yeah.
But I will side with the favorite in Joselyne. I'm just going to say she lands the cleaner shots here in that matchup. And I say she wins a unanimous decision.
Yeah, so I'll say she'll just probably land the cleaner, better shots and do damage. Ramona Carla did actually considerably well in her last fight against Josiane Nunes.
Yeah, she's tough.
But I just don't think what she will do, I could be wrong, will be enough. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, didn't this Edwards, right?
Yeah.
Didn't she like get taken down and submitted by Jessica Rose Clark?
She got taken down like primarily the entire fight. I think she got away with a decision, but it was pretty much on the ground the whole time. It was one-way traffic, that's for sure.
Okay, yeah, so maybe that could be a path for Ramona Carla, but other than that, I don't really. From what I've seen and heard from both, I see Edwards winning.
I agree. So that is it for the UFC 275 breakdown. I want to thank again DJC Combat for showing up here and running through this main card with us. And I'd like to give you a time to shout out and plug in where people can find you.
All right, yeah. So follow me on Instagram at DJC_combat. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel, DJC Combat, where I give a bunch of breakdowns on matchups and stuff, and I break fight news as well. So you can be sure to do that.
Yeah, make sure you guys check him out. He has wonderful videos on there. I like his Nightmare matchup series, and he's putting out great content here for the MMA community. So thank you guys again for watching Southpaw Picks. Catch you guys later.
All right, peace.